Logic is GarageBand on steroids, essentially.
Yeah, I've used it like one time, but I'm not like a whiz, you know.
I'm not a whiz either. I'm just learning all this stuff. I got discouraged from driving around and playing music because I did it for so long, and if I felt like I was just spinning my wheels, you know. So I just
stood up, so don't. Sorry.
Yeah, stand up.
I have to fix my blanket.
Fix your blanket. Ladies and gentlemen, we're here with the one and only Carmel Liburdi, coming straight at you remote. I'm in Long Beach, California. This is Neil Patterson.
Hi, Neil Patterson.
Hey, Carmel Liburdi. Hello. We're doing a thing. We're recording a podcast remotely because right now COVID-19 has swept the nation and it's swept the world, and everyone's staying put, it seems. Rightfully so. So we're trying to keep the wheels a-rolling on this weird podcast that I started in the summer of 2019. And right now it is, what month is it? March? It's March of 2020. So we're still rolling, and we're still trying to have conversations with humans and record them and put them on the internet. And that's what this is. This is SUPcast. It's a podcast. Sup. Hello. Hi, Carmel.
Hello, Neil.
I can hear you. I think we're getting decent audio. I think this is the second attempt at the learning curve of the virtual podcast thing, the remote. I did one, and we weren't using headphones, so there was a bunch of bleed. And then when I was trying syncing the audio, and the video didn't work either. We tried doing it through Skype, and it just didn't work. I ended up looping my friend some of his YouTube content. I ended up looping it and having it be a split screen like this, except it's just like a 3-minute loop of him playing the bass and like walking around with a cowboy hat on. So he wasn't actually like in the podcast. But we had the audio, so I'm like, okay, I'll just put the audio. You can see my stupid ass talking, but like when he talks, it's just some looped footage of him playing the bass and walking around. So, but you know, I didn't want to throw away the whole conversation because I thought we touched on meaningful topics and whatnot. So, yeah, it's a learning curve. You know, we're learning. We're on Zoom now. We're Zooming.
Zoom.
Now you use Zoom to teach the children, correct?
Yep. Usually I would be doing guitar lessons once a week in person, sometimes twice a week. But since this whole COVID-19 explosion, we've been doing online guitar lessons with Zoom, which we could just use FaceTime, but I guess they want us to. I think that Zoom is one of the few platforms that doesn't have latency, but somehow. So you can like play with people. So they're like, then you can play music with the Zoom. I mean, I don't know why they want us to use Zoom instead of FaceTime, because all my students have had the ability to do other types of video chat, but they want us to use Zoom. So we're specifically using that.
Right. Is it, are they like keeping track of the lessons, and like, are they using the recording option? Are they like looking over your shoulder kind of thing?
They're not recording. No, we do not record them. They're like, we gave your students like your meeting ID and they'll find you. And then they gave all of our students' parents our phone numbers. So my students' parents texted me, and then we basically do the lessons when I would give them the regular lesson, but on the computer. And the thing about it though is that it is distracting for some of the kids that are like a little older. Like the little kids, their parents are usually like in the room or like nearby, and they're more like shy. So we just kind of do the lesson and they leave. But I have these two students that are like 9 and 11. And when we do our video lesson, they'll like take me all around their house and be like, this is my lizard. And like, they like want to talk. It's like, they want to talk about like, they want to show me their room, and like, this is my brother, this is my dog. And like, so it's like harder to get them to focus. But, and it's also
kind of
difficult.
Adorable though. I mean,
it is, it's cute.
But you're trying to get a job done.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, I let them like have a little fun with it, but it's like, it's also kind of hard to teach them new material because a lot of these kids like are pretty young, like 7 or so, and some of them are like freshly 7, so they're like still little babies, and it's hard for them to. I mean, they're not babies, but you know what I mean. They're very young, and maybe
closer
some of them have never
to
played.
babies. than we are.
Yeah, they've never played music, some of them. So like when I'm trying to teach them something new, or if I want to give them sheet music or something, it's like difficult to explain that stuff without being in person. And a lot of people are visual and like hands-on learners. Like I think a lot of kids really like when you can be there and like put their hand in the right place on the guitar, or like point to something on their paper or something. And like you can't really do that over the phone. You know, it's like hard to do.
That was a big thing when I was taking guitar lessons when I was a young chap. It was you know, the teacher, and teaching lessons myself. I didn't do it for that long, but like being able to like take the person's finger and be like, you want to be right there, and then they can look at your hand and see what you're doing. It's like it's kind of hard to emulate that with the phone, I would think, or Skype. I've never tried doing the Skype lessons thing or the phone, the remote lessons. It seems like, you know, with the latency involved and with the fact that you can't like be there to touch the other person's instrument if need be, like I feel like that would be a challenge for sure.
Yeah, that's like honestly the hard part about it is just like, but sometimes like it reminds me of like olden times now, like trying to, like I feel like because we can't do anything in person, we're relying on all these digital tools that like maybe we're unfamiliar with, or like that are faulty, you know, because like everyone's on the internet at once. So I feel like it reminds me of like when technology would first start happening and you'd be like, oh, can you hear me? Is it on? Oh, do you see me? Hello? And everyone's like, I think I got it. And it's like, I feel like it feels like the old days, or like watching people on Instagram Live, like trying to join each other's live streams and stuff. They're like, you're coming in. Oh, there you are. Oh, hey. And everyone's all like stoked about it because like they don't see people anymore. And like, it's like,
well, we just did that for 20 minutes before we started recording this, you know?
Yes.
Like,
yeah, and ours was like a little less wholesome because we were trying to get something done, but it's like definitely like communicating in these like new and different ways. I feel like people are marveling a little more than they were marveling before at technology. And it's also like when I look at like live streams, how there's like that thread of comments, like it reminds me of being in like a chat room. Like I hosted a virtual open mic, so I had like people come on and join my live stream for like 10 minutes at a time. And their friends would like tune in for their segment, but there'd be all these other people like in the virtual room watching, but they're not really like talking to each other because it's not really culturally how we think of the internet anymore. But essentially it's like a chat room. Like you bring a bunch of people that don't know each other into like an open channel where no one can really see each other, but they're like all talking. It's like they can't hear each other either. So it's kind of like, in a weird way, even though we're using more advanced technology, we're like we've gone back in time a little bit, I feel like, emotionally.
Wow, I've never thought about it like that. That's kooky.
Yeah, like it's weird because it's like our technology is way more advanced, like obviously at this stage, but like just the way we're looking at it, I feel like, is more old school.
That's wild. That's a unique perspective on the whole thing. I just remember when people would say, you know, before you know it, you're going to be able to have a video chat with someone like in China or something. I just was always like, well, yeah, right. I don't remember when I was told this, but but in 2011, I was in a long distance relationship with a Japanese woman, and we literally lived on Skype. She would, because there was a 12-hour difference in time. I think it was like 12 hours. So I would be like going to bed and she would be at work at her day job, which was she did like photo retouching and whatnot. And we would just stay on a Skype call and I would literally sleep and she would just have me minimized in a window sleeping.
That's cute. Oh,
is that cute? Because everyone, you know,
it's kind of sad, but cute.
We liked each other. We like, you know, it was a thing. It was weird. It was unconventional, but we saw each other in real life a handful of times, but that was it. It was pretty short-lived, but it's strange.
It's really challenging to do, honestly.
Yeah, it was weird because we would connect in different ways. Like I would draw stuff and then she would like color it in, and like we would collaborate on ideas and whatnot. So we kind of were like, we were intimate, like not as much physically because we couldn't touch each other, but like in a different way. We'd always be like making
intellectually.
And we'd always be collaborating and making some shit. And you know, so
I really liked this guy that lived in New Jersey, and like when we were talking a lot, would be like Skyping every single day, and it would be like it almost was like unhealthy because it's like if he lived here, we would have just been like hanging out all the time.
Yeah.
And I could like go be in the outside world and then like with him, but I couldn't. It was like I would just, if I wanted to see him, I was like in my house, like on my computer, and
you almost had
like,
to push everything else to the side.
Yes.
Like,
yeah, like I'd have to be like, well, I was gonna go out tonight, but I really want to hang out with you, so I'm gonna stay in and like Skype you, and it would be like I tried not to do that because it just was like crazy. Like I just felt like so much of my time was spent texting, calling, and Skyping with him because that's like all we could do.
Yeah,
and like, we did visit each other, but I mean, it was rare. Like it was not like every day or anything. Like, so yeah, I don't know. It's honestly like.
But I was
interesting.
I was already at the point in my life when I started seeing her where I was sober for a few years and I was kind of done going out all the time. So, and I just pretty much toured with my band, and then I came home and then got ready for the next tour. So it was, for me, I wasn't like, a long time ago, I stopped pretty much like going out as much, and I haven't really felt since I quit drinking that I'm really missing out on a whole lot. So I've been kind of a recluse, shut-in for pretty much since I stopped drinking. It's been harder for me to force myself to go out and have fun and do fun things with people, pretty much because of the alcohol thing. But you know, I do it here and there. But since I moved out,
really.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, you know that I don't really drink either, so. Yeah. Like sometimes when I go out, like it'll feel like weird. Like, but I basically just go out to like see the people, and I realized that like when this whole quarantine started, that like, I mean, now I'm really starting to miss like going out places. But like at first, I was like, I don't miss that at all. I just miss the people. Like, yeah. I don't really miss like going to like a bar in Hamtramck and coming home smelling like really bad and like like just sitting around a bunch of random people like who are getting wasted, and then some of my friends too, and like I like my friends and like I like the social experience, but like I don't really miss per se like being out super late or going out a lot, driving around a lot, but it is something that I'm accustomed to doing
because that's where the homies are.
Yeah, I do miss it. A bit, at least. Like today I went and drove around a little. I went and drove down Woodward, like just to see the main drag downtown. Like I know everything is closed, but I just like wanted to like feel like I was doing something.
What did it look like? Is it a ghost town?
Well, there is a lot of stuff at certain, like there's some abandoned buildings at Woodward still that like aren't really super full. And I took then Jefferson. So Jefferson and Woodward kind of intersect, and I took Jefferson home. And there are already a lot of abandoned buildings on Jefferson, so like some of it didn't really look that different, but it just felt different. And but yeah, being on Woodward, there were people like walking and biking, and there were some cars, but it like, you know, nothing's open, and like it was crazy to see stuff that like had started to get built and now they're just not building it, or like places that said like help wanted, like line cook supply here or whatever, and like seeing all this stuff that like was in motion and now has come to a halt. And like sometimes I would think about that, like before this happened, like a place like Crow Manor. Crow Manor, for anyone who's watching that doesn't live in Detroit, is like a big house where like 13 people live, and it's like an anarchist like DIY collective where they have shows and stuff. And their whole house is full of like art and decorations and things people have built and things people made like over the years. And I like, it's a very passionate community that's just like really tight knit. And I was in there one day like looking around at all the like very personal stuff that was in there, and I was like, man, it's crazy to think that like potentially one day like all this like is gonna just be gone. Like to think that like if there was ever like ancient ruins of like these times, like the things they would find, and like looking at the Crow Manor and like all the little pieces of everybody that was in there, like like all that stuff could just be gone. And like it's like it only really matters when we're looking at it, you know what I mean? Like it's kind of like just this weird phenomenon. And like I felt like that looking at the world, like it was just like, even though there were still people outside, like all the businesses essentially were like cleared out. And I felt really bad for like a lot of these smaller businesses that I like. One of my friends just opened a vintage clothing store like in the Cass Corridor and stuff. And it's like all that stuff is just like kind of just frozen in time. And like, I don't know, it was really weird to see that. And I also think people are more, like when we were at this red light, there was a guy next to us listening to Slayer. And so we like rolled the window down and he was like, oh, hey, how you guys doing? And we were just like, oh, pretty good, man. Like, what you listening to? And he was like, oh, like Slayer. And I was like, rock on. And like he was in like a Corvette and he was like 52 or something. But either way, he was so friendly. Like I feel like people are just like so ready to talk to people like in any small way, like that, like, you know, like the fresh meat, you know.
And just stay away from me. We have a neighbor that every time we walk by, he's like super jazzed to see me or Allie. and I'm just like, because I don't know. I'm like, whether or not I'm buying into the fear or I'm being realistic about having to be cautious, like I'm just like, hey, how you doing? And then I tuck into my, you know, fortress of solitude, just because.
I just keep a distance. Or like even at the store, like I'll like stand at the end of an aisle and like wait for the person who's in the aisle to leave. Like I'll just stand there. Like I don't want to walk by that. Like some people, I mean, I walked by some people today, but like, it's like. It's weird because I'm like a little less scared now. Like when it first happened, before anyone was quarantining and they were just like coronavirus could be out there, I was just like, holy shit. Like I didn't want to go anywhere or touch anything or like be around anyone. Like I was just like, holy shit. Like it could be anywhere.
Do you remember when this was? Like around what date?
Yeah, honestly, not that long ago. Like so, Hamtramck Music Festival happened like the end of February, and that was when the first case in California hit. And like right when the California case hit, I started being like, oh no. Like I felt scared. Like I had like a panic attack, like watching the news that day almost. And then when I went to the music festival, it was like so packed. And like, you know, when it's like a really tight packed space in a bar, everything's just like moist and like warm in the air. Like, and so I was just like in there, like, holy shit, I'm just like breathing in the coronavirus. Like, oh, wow. I can feel it in the air. Like I was just like terrified. And like, but they weren't even talking about it in Michigan yet. It was just like a thing that was in the United States. And I was like, oh no, this is the end. And that was like the end of February. And then like March like 9th, they had started being like, we got one case in Oakland County. And my friend had like a DJ set that night. And I was like, I said I would go. And then I just was like, I'm not going. Cause I started freaking out. And like up until like a couple days ago, I've kind of just been like, I mean, I'm still taking it seriously. I'm still quarantining myself, but like I'm less afraid, I think, because I know that other people are afraid, so they're like taking precautions. Whereas like before, I feel like it was not on anyone's radar except mine. So I felt totally out of control. Yeah,
it was on your radar early because all I remember is I was thumbing through Facebook or some sort of social media and I saw this article and it read, prepare for your lives to be disrupted by coronavirus. And I just remember that really stuck with me. I'm like, how is this going to disrupt our lives? And that was before I did any research on what was going on in France and what was going on in Italy and what was going on in China. I just had no idea. All I remember is reading this headline and being like, that sounds scary. And I was thinking to myself, I wonder if there's any validity to this. And I didn't really catch a huge dose of the fear until it was probably like around the 14th or 15th of March. I was late to the game because I knew this thing was happening in other countries, but I just was I was on tour. I was paying no attention to it. But you could see the people in the audience. First of all, the audiences began to dwindle. Like the first show was kind of packed. The second show, there was over 100 tickets sold and only 25 people showed up. So
oh, Jesus.
People were scared to go anywhere. Yeah, and then that was the night they started canceling everything. They canceled Coachella, and then the next night they canceled the NBA, they canceled Disneyland, and that for me that's
Olympics.
Yeah. The Olympics happened a little later, actually, I think. But regardless, like that's when the fear really set in for me. And instead of doing research and being like, okay, what is this exactly? How are people in these other countries? How are they handling it? I just started thinking like, I need I need to fucking make a run for it, and I need to go to the Midwest, and I need to protect my mom, and I need to be by fresh water, because when they start looting and when they start killing each other, I need to be somewhere safe. I need to be with the people I love, and what's crazy about this is, instead of there being like civil unrest, everyone's scared to fucking go anywhere. Like, we went to the beach, like a week ago, we went to the beach and there's people fucking everywhere. And then yesterday we rode our bikes, because there's a bike path that goes to the beach in Long Beach, and it was a fucking ghost town. There was nobody, and it was crazy. There was nobody. So it went very quickly. Maybe not quick enough, but very quickly, from people not taking this shit seriously at all to like, people are fucking scared as fuck now. Like, it's like I think we waited too long. I think our government waited too long. I think we all waited too long, but I think now we can see. I mean, I remember telling Allie, I don't know anyone that has this, and now I go on my timeline, it's all celebrities are dying of this, and I know a girl that had both of her parents have it, and one of them's on a ventilator fighting for his life right now, and it's like, okay, this is really, really real, and stressful.
That's what I thought of when it hit California. I was just like, damn, like Post Malone better not get COVID-19. Like, I will not make it through. I just won't. I can't. But like, I literally thought that, like, when they were like California, I was like, Post Malone. Like, I was like, no, I'm just kidding. That wasn't the only. I also thought about you, and I thought about a bunch of other people. But I did. But Post Malone was on the list of people I was worried about.
Yeah.
But for real, I was like, damn, like, celebrities are gonna, like, it's gonna be a big deal, and like it is a big deal. But I'm kind of like, I am an anxious person, and I definitely fear like disease and things like that. That's like one of my like triggers. And when I heard about it, like, I was freaking, and I know like a lot of people that I knew were like, oh my God, dude, like, don't freak. And I was like, listen, you don't get how diseases work, especially if it's something that people like can have and not know they have it.
Yeah, for 2 weeks.
It's like, you can, like, that's what I felt was so dangerous about it. Like, when I first heard the cases, I'm like, damn, like, so like, if one person talks to one person who's infected, and then that person talks to some other people, and then they get infected, and they talk to some other people and they get infected, it's like a chain effect. And that 6 degrees of separation thing is really wild sometimes. It'll be like someone who's connected to someone who's connected to someone that you would never put together in your mind, but then like somehow it ends up being in Utah or whatever in like a day or like whatever. Like, you just never know. Like, that stuff just it goes. And so I got scared really early, because I think like that, like, and other people were not thinking like that as much. But I mean, now everybody's probably thinking like that. Like, everyone's scared now.
Did you see they tracked the kids that were on spring break in Florida's phones, and they made a little infographic about it, and it pretty much tracks like where all of their phones ended up from Florida. So it was just like pretty much a depiction of, hey, like, anyone traveling anywhere is going to be making this worse. And I mean, even Phil was on tour with us. We flew him out to do these tour dates in March, and he's like, he told me as he was leaving, he's like, well, I guess I'm going to get on a big disease tube and fly through the air, because because they didn't shut any of that down. It's like, there was a part of me that thought he was going to be stuck with us for the whole quarantine, and
I thought that too.
Which we have a futon. Like, Phil's a pretty easygoing dude. Like, we could have made that work, but like, he got on a plane, and he's pretty much like, yeah, I'm going to go fly in a fucking disease tube.
Dude. Yeah. Like, I told him, like, I was like, he's like, I'm going to California Wednesday. I was like, bro, they got the corona over there. And he was like, I'm not too worried about it. It's like 2 cases. And I was like, listen, you should be worried about it. And he was like, I'll be fine. I mean, evidently he is fine, but like, thank the Lord, or whoever, thank whoever.
Thank somebody.
Yeah, but thank someone.
Some deity.
But yeah, he made it home. And I kind of thought he was going to get stuck in California. I mean, not that he probably would have been super mad about it, but I kind of thought he was going to.
I had a conversation with him, and I said, hey, I'm thinking about making a run for it, and I'm thinking Allie's not going to be down, and she's going to be safe with her parents, in Orange County or whatever, and you and I like let's get out of here, let's drive across the country. And he's like, I'm down. He's like, if they cancel my flight, he's like, let's do it. And so we were gonna do the Ironman, like switch off driving, like he sleeps, I drive. We've done that before on tour, so we were gonna do it to get back to Detroit. It was like Escape to Detroit, like they made those movies, Escape from LA, Escape from New York. This was Escape to Detroit. But I ended up staying because I dropped him off at the airport, and I came back here, and I remember he got on his plane safely, and I stayed up till 5 a.m, like just on the internet, looking up everything I could about what was going on in Italy and France, and I'm just like, okay, like I probably shouldn't go be with my mother, like if I'm carrying this, because I just was around like hundreds of people playing shows and shaking hands and taking all their money, and I was already feeling kind of sick. So I'm just like, all right, well, what am I gonna do? Drive across the country and like say hi, mom, and go into her house, or what else was I gonna do? Park my van in her driveway and like quarantine myself in the van and just like shit in a hole in her backyard and just like drink her hose water and just like wave at her through the window and just be like, hey, mom, I'm here to save you. And potentially getting sicker in my own vehicle, like, but
no, the whole thing's bad. I mean, like, I canceled, like, a couple of my shows got canceled, like, because I had like 3 or 4 shows, like, in the end of March. I like had happened to overbook myself this month, and so I had something like I don't know, maybe like 2 days in a row. I had like a house show and then another house show, and one of them canceled. And the Crow Manor was like, no, we're still going to do our show. And I was like, I'm just not going to do it. Because like at that point, they had a case in Wayne County, which is where I live and where the Crow Manor is too. So I was like, you guys, I don't know about this. And they were like, well, that's cool. Like, I totally get why you don't want to do it. And like, no big deal. And I was like, all right. But like, they didn't cancel. And, the day of the event, they were on the Facebook page, like, where is everybody? And I was like, bro, like, no one, like, everybody's freaking out. And like, at that point, they didn't like shut everything down yet. They were just basically like, holy shit, like the virus is in our area. So like, and I had like a gig, like a paid gig at this wine place. And I called them and they were like, nope, like we're still open. Like people need their booze and it's actually a pretty good crowd here. So don't worry about that. And I was like, that's exactly what I'm worried about, man. Like that's what I didn't want you to say. Like if they were like, there's only 2 people here, business is really slow, I'd be like, okay, I'll come and sing some music and just stay far away from everyone. Like I would have gone if it had been empty in there. But they were like, no, it's actually pretty busy. And I'm like, I'm not coming.
if you want merch, buy it online. Because don't talk to me after the show. I'm going to my car and I'm leaving. And that was a weird part too, is everything got canceled, and the last 2 gigs of Phil and I's tour with Guttermouth, they like miraculously still happened for some reason. And we played in Santa Rosa, California, and there was a pretty decent crowd and everyone was drinking. And then we played in Paso Robles. We played at a winery that looked like a fucking castle, and there was like 200 people drunk on wine, like fucking moshing and spitting on each other and making out, and it was just a fucking shit show. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, wow, these motherfuckers are just acting like nothing is wrong. And the next day when we were driving back to LA, they shut down all bars, they shut down all wineries, they cut the capacity of all restaurants in half, and then like 2 days later they just closed all the restaurants except for takeout. And then like a day or 2 after that, they fucking locked everyone down. So it all just is like, we're on tour, everyone's acting like normal, and then boom, 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 boom. And it was just a succession of events. And yeah, I was ready to run. I thought Phil and I were going to fucking escape to Detroit. It
was really wild. I mean, and like everyone reacted different. Like in the beginning, like I said, like that winery was like, yeah, we're open, no big deal. Like until the governor like comes and shuts us down herself, we're gonna stay open. I was like, all right. And then this other place, I was supposed to go to Ann Arbor to play a gig too, and they were both like paid cover gigs, so I'd have to sing for like 3 hours. And I had a sore throat the day that I called the winery, and I was like, yeah, I have a sore throat. And I was like, I got a sore throat. They're like, well, we're sanitizing all the surfaces in here. Like, just if you want to just come and not get close to anyone. I was like, no, I'm not coming. And then in Ann Arbor, I was like, hey, I don't know, like, what if you guys are open or what you want to do, but I just want to let you know I got a sore throat. He was like, okay, let me just talk it over with my team for a minute. Like the manager spoke to me about it. And then he got back on the phone with me 10 minutes later and he was like, yeah, don't come. And I was like, all right. And they were like, don't. And I mean, I was basically going to not come anyway, but I'm like, I could just come and be really distant from everybody depending on how busy it is over there. Like, I don't know what you want me to do. I don't know what kind of sore throat I have. And they were just like, yeah, please don't come. And the girl who booked me was like, I really wanted them to have you. I really wanted you to make that money. And I was like, I really appreciate it. But I also like, there's no amount of money that's like worth like the threat. Like, to be honest, like I just don't, I was very concerned about my mother at that time. And like now that she and I have been quarantined together for a while, like I'm not as concerned, you know. We both had the same symptoms. We had sore throats for like 4 or 5 days, like on and off. It would like go away and then come back for a day. And we'd always have it like the same level of pain on the same side of our throat. Like it was really weird. And, but now pretty much it's gone. She's had some cough, but like I haven't had as much of that. Like I feel like, I don't know. I'm not really sure what we had. But like,
yeah, I've definitely been battling some sort of cold for like the last 3 weeks. Even going into the shows with Phil, I was like, I'm sick. I'm gonna eat a lot of raw garlic. And Phil would go out and he would have a good old time. He would go to LA and he would go on the beach and he was having all this fun. And I'm just like, I'm just gonna stay here because I don't want to get sick. And then that was before I even like coronavirus was even on my radar. And then the whole tour, I just didn't want to get sick because I wanted to perform well. But then after the tour, I'm like, okay, I'm still like somewhat symptomatic. I even have a like kind of a weird throat thing right now. Just talking too much like ends up like hurting my throat kind of. And yeah, it's scary because, but you know, before you're just like, okay, if I get sick, I get sick and then I'll get better. But like, what happens if you get sick, you could get fucking way worse. Like that's a terrifying thing. And they also nullified that whole notion that this is just a boomer's disease, that like only old people can no, there's young people that are dying from this too. That's what they say.
What do you think about, okay, so I've heard like definitely theories that like it's an engineered virus or that like I remember like no, my brother is very like
oh yeah,
he's like kind of high strung sometimes. Yeah. It kind of, I guess maybe it's a genetic thing, but he
definitely doesn't trust authority or the government. He's a smart guy, but you know there are smart people that there are people out there that are coming up with some like wacky scenarios as to how this happened. But go ahead.
None of us really trust it, but like I also don't think that I don't trust anybody's opinion on this. Like I think that nothing that is being said by anybody that's public that I could hear is probably the truth. That's kind of how I feel about it. That like if I'm being allowed to see it, it's probably not true. It's kind of how I feel about it. But either way, so my brother was like, he called me and my mom and he was like, yeah, you guys want to come over? I like want to talk to you about some like we should have like I want to have like a safety talk or like whatever. And we got there and he was like freaking out. I got there and he was like yelling, like he's like people are gonna start going crazy. He's like, my friend just called me from Texas, like people over there are already starting to like loot stuff, like people are going nuts. He's like, they're gonna shut everything down, they're gonna shut the stores down, you're gonna need to barricade your house. I was like, whoa, and he's like seriously, I'm buying building supplies. He's like, you should be prepared to barricade the house. And I was like, okay. And he's talking kind of crazy. He's like being kind of like almost like slurring, you know. And he's like seriously, like I can give you some like a something for self-defense. And I was like, okay. And I was like, and so as he's talking, I was like, dude, like, are you drunk? And he's like, I had a few White Claws. A few White Claws. So I was like, okay. So he's in his house like by himself, like sort of like ordering building supplies online, like reading conspiracy theories, like. And I was like, dude, what? And he's like, seriously, like I can teach you how to shoot a gun. And I was like, I'd rather you not do it right now, bro. Like you had like a few White Claws in. Like I think we should wait. But yeah, so they didn't go down. But he was talking about some shit.
Well,
at that time.
When Phil and I went to Venice because we had some time to kill before we dropped off. Because every time Phil comes and tours out here, Bobbins lends his old drum kit to Phil, which is very sweet of him. So Phil flies out and then we borrowed Bobbins' drums. So before we dropped off Bobbins' drums, we're like walking around Venice, and I'm telling Phil, yeah, I was like, I'm gonna get a gun and I'm going to protect my mother's property. I was kind of on the same tip as your brother. Like I literally thought this was going to be an end of the world scenario where the people were going to be looting, killing each other, and we're going to run out of fresh water, and we need to be near where so like I totally. All of that fear and everything that your brother was spouting off, like I was having similar thoughts. Like I've shot a gun once in my entire life. I've shot a real handgun, and I gave it to my brother after it was his gun after I shot it, and I was like, that's weird. I don't want to do that. But like he's one of the first people I talked to, and I'm just like, I need a firearm, and I'm making a run for it, and there were plans for me to pick up a firearm, and I was talking to Phil about it. He's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure you'll be able to figure it out. You just like, he was so nonchalant about describing how to use a gun to me. He's just like, yeah, you just point it and pull the trigger, and if someone's trying to kill you, you kill them first. And he just was like super chill talking about it.
Phil is just like that, though. I feel like Phil is always he's always on that, I don't know, chillax tip, I feel.
Yeah, well, unless he gets a few White Claws in him.
Yeah, no, I feel like he's definitely, like Phil is kind of like a quiet guy. Like, I feel like when you first meet him, you don't, like, get a really strong read, per se, on him because he isn't, like, being super out there. But, like, I feel like as you get to know him, he's kind of like a hard-ass motherfucker. You know what I mean? Like,
for a long time, because we would go on these long drives and he wouldn't say anything. And I'm like anxious, and I'm like constantly in my own head. So I convinced myself that he didn't like me, yeah,
I mean,
but I think he kind of likes me. He keeps coming back and playing music with me, and he seems to be excited about it. So like, I think we're friends. But yeah, he's a quiet dude. He's not like an open book like you or I, like, just gushing about our feelings all the time. He's just he's reserved, and that's just who he is. Some people gush, like myself or you, Carmel. I consider us maybe to be gushers.
And then some fruit gushers.
Yeah, fruit gushers, like snack packs. But Phil just kind of he's kind of just, I don't really know. He's kind of a mystery man.
No, he is. I feel like I've gotten to know him a little better over time, and like.
Yeah, me too. But there's still a lot that's a mystery about that man. That mystery man.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that he's got more of an edge than like you think he does when you meet him, because he has like a very, what's the word? Like, I don't know, just because he's kind of like quiet. So you think he's just like a little sweet, quiet boy, which I think he is, like a sweet boy. But there's also just like he's kind of wild too. He's an interesting guy. And we both make music with him sometimes. I feel like we both have like that unique perspective on him.
I feel like there's a darkness that maybe like he's got a very jovial kind of party persona, but I feel like there's definitely. I've heard some things come out of his mouth like where I'm just like, whoa, I'm like, that's fucking kind of heavy.
Philip.
Yeah. But then again, like, I don't know, if I told everyone everything I thought all the time, no one would want to be friends with me, because it's a fucking madhouse in there. It's really bad. It's,
honestly, I don't know. I feel like my hidden side is more like snarky. Like the part of me that I don't always share maybe is like I can be sort of, what's the word? Like I don't want to say misanthropic, but maybe a little bit. Like sometimes like I'll get like salted sometimes, How do I explain it? Like I'll make superficial judgments for the sake of humor. Like I'm not like a person who sticks to my judgments. Like I'm open-minded. Like I'll make a judgment about someone, or like an assessment, if you will. And I'm open to the idea that I could be wrong about that assessment, but I'm also still making that assessment. I'm not the kind of person that like, I don't know, like when I observe things, I can't help but like make connections between other observations I've had in the past, if that makes sense. Like I'll look at someone and be like, oh, that guy's wearing that band shirt and he's wearing those types of shoes and he talks like this, and so he probably is like in this vein of a type of person. And like in my mind I might like roast him in my head or something, but I don't like roast anyone out loud, you know, and unless I'm like, if it's private, but it's all for humor. It's not like I'm like, I hate that guy. Like it's just I'm kind of like, this guy's probably like that, but like I'm still gonna get to know that person and like be like, oh yeah, they also have all these other qualities and like they're a complex individual and I respect that. You know, like I'm not going to be a dick about it. But that's like maybe so like I feel like that's like maybe the worst hidden dialogue that I have in my head most of the time is probably stuff like that where I'm like kind of like almost stereotyping people, but not, I don't know. That makes it sound maybe worse than it is, but
no, I mean, I find myself doing similar things. There's a voice that lives inside my head. And my therapist said that it was a gift given to me by my father. And the voice is the most callous, mean, judgmental, snappy, angry thing that literally, it sizes up people as I walk by them. It just says terrible shit. And the thing about this voice is it isn't just limited to the people I walk by and these new people that I meet in my journey. It comes at me all the time, and it's the same voice. It's the same voice that's judging other people that judges myself, and it's a constant war with this voice. And I know it sounds a little dramatic, but it's like that the voice has been there my entire fucking life. And like I'll walk by a complete stranger, and that voice will size that person up, and it will go on an attack. Not all the time, but like it depends on what sort of mood I am. If I'm feeling particularly insecure, or if I'm just like, if someone's in my way, or if I'm irritable, or if I'm like, you know, coming down from too much caffeine, or if I'm, you know what I'm saying? Like there's and that's what I'm trying to illustrate when I'm saying, like, if anyone knew like what was going on in my head at all times, there's literally a fucking war with this shitty voice, this condescending, asshole, judgmental voice, and the voice hates me too. I know it sounds weird, but it's a real thing. There's a real internal struggle going on with me, and it's kind of exhausting because I want to be able to, because I know in my heart that I'm really open-minded, and I love people, and I love hearing people's stories, and I love connecting with other humans, and I just I'm accepting, you know, there's a lot of love, but then there's this other fucking thing that lives in me that is terrible. And I don't know if everyone experiences this, but I definitely, after saying all this, when all this corona shit is over, I definitely probably need to start talking to my therapist again. But
oh no,
but I'm okay.
I mean, that's good. I should say,
I'm
yes.
okay though. I mean, I feel like I've come a long way. As far as like, because the way I used to deal with it is I would just dump alcohol on it. You know, and it's been like, you know, I quit drinking in 2008, so I'm at least I'm not making it worse, but I think I'm doing all right. I think I'm a pretty benevolent guy these days. I'm really try to avoid conflict, and I just want the people around me and the people I care about. I want things to be easy and good and stress free, for everyone's sake. You know.
Yeah, I would say like, I think that like for me, like the inner voice is definitely probably the most mean to me. Like I think that but like even to me, it's really not that. It's not that bad. I would say like, I think we all have that like a little voice sometimes. It's definitely surrounded by certain types of events that go down. Like like with other people, I feel like I make humorous assessments sometimes in my head, but like it isn't really like that big of a deal, I think, unless like you're saying maybe something makes me feel insecure. Like this guy that I just got a studio space, and one of the guys in the studio space kind of like mansplained to me one time and was kind of just talking to me in this way that made me feel very like disregarded. And I was kind of like, I kind of like judged him because I felt like he judged me. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like he came up in my space and was just kind of like, huh. And I was like, huh. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like I was like, wow, that guy judged me.
But you didn't like come at him in real life. This was all internal.
No.
Yeah.
It was.
Because I do the same thing. Like if someone comes at me and they talk to me like I'm stupid or something, like in my mind, like I'm like, well, fuck you, motherfucker, and I'll fucking slap you. But in real life, I'm just like, I don't do shit.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't even know what to like. I was trying not to let. You don't want to let the insecurities take over. And I think that there's always a part of you that understands sometimes when you interpret things as an insult that it could just be you like interpreting it that way.
Yeah. Being
so
sensitive.
Yeah, exactly. So I was trying to, but at the same time, like I have this one friend and he's very, what's the word? Like, I don't want to say oblivious because that sounds more offensive than I want it to, but he doesn't like pick up sometimes on like the social subtleties that I pick up on. And like, if I remember telling him one time about like, I was around these two people in my family and one of them had just recently bought a house and then like his like girlfriend and like his like sister or whatever, we're trying to like tell him about, how like, oh, like, you just moved into a house, you should like paint it and like la la la. And he was like talking to his male friend and he was like, yeah, I'm like super stressed out because I just bought this house and like, I'm just trying to figure out, like, I don't remember even what he said, but he basically was like, and I have all these women trying to tell me like what to do. And his friend was like, yeah, like women don't know anything about that. Like all women really know about is like, colors to paint the house. Like, that's probably why they're focusing on that because that's really all women understand about home care. Like these two people in my family. And I heard them say that and I was like, hold on 1 second. I'm doing a podcast. Hey, so no big deal.
NBD.
So I was kind of pissed. I was just like, whoa, like, and I remember talking to my dog.
Poochie.
My dog just tried to jump on the bed and almost missed. Okay, I got you, Margaret. No big deal. But
don't miss.
Yeah. So anyway, I was talking to my friend about it, and I was like, man, like, I'm really pissed. And he was like, well, what are you pissed about? And I told him that story. And he was like, you really, like, that really made you angry? And I was like, yeah. As a woman who was sitting in the room with two adult males that know I'm a woman, and they're, like, gonna talk about women like that in front of me, like I'm not also a woman, like, what the fuck? And, like it just in general, even if I wasn't a woman, like that would piss me off. And I told them basically when they were talking, I didn't even really know what to say, but I kind of tried to butt in there a little bit and be like, so what the fuck are you guys trying to say? And my friend was like, wow, I can't believe you really let that get to you. Like you just can't let that stuff get to you. Like, he's like, it's really not a big deal. What'd you say?
It's easier said than done. A lot of people will just, I don't know, they just project what they deem to be offensive. And just expect everyone else to have the same set of standards. You know what I'm saying? It's like so you are a woman, you're a young woman, and you've probably been privy to witness and be the brunt of some of this behavior. And it probably, I wouldn't know because I'm a fucking cis white male, but that shit has to get on your nerves, I would assume.
I rarely have to hear stuff like that, I would say, but it just it made me angry, like that they would be, first of all, so insensitive to my feelings, but second of all, just so blatantly sexist ever in general. And my friend was like, yeah, I mean, like, I can't believe like that upset you like that. And I was like, I can't believe that you don't understand why that would upset me. Like, I don't get why you don't see it. And he was there when I was at my studio and I kind of got offended. And when the dude left, I was like, did you notice that guy was kind of condescending to me? And he was like, no, I mean, he's just like being a dude. He seemed like a regular guy to me. And I was like, I guess maybe
he is oblivious. I mean, I know you're trying to dance around using that word, but it sounds like, homeboy's oblivious because it seems those are two pretty obvious occurrences where, I don't know. I would be like, fuck that. But that's just because I was, I grew up with a sister and my mom raised me. So I'm pretty much one of the girls anyway.
And I've always kind of been one of the guys, like, honestly. Like, when I grew up, like, I had an older brother and I hung out with, like, my brother's friends and, like the boys in the neighborhood. I would, like, go skating with, like,
listen to Korn.
Yeah, like, I was, like, a dude, and, like, even in high school, like, if I had a party, like it'd always end up being like all the girls would be like sitting like on my bed talking about stuff, and I'd be like hanging out with guys like playing guitar and talking about like metal and stuff. And like it was like I always ended up being with the men. Now as an adult, I hang out with women like more than I hang out with men actually. But it's like I don't know. It's not like I planned it or anything. It's just like how it's happened in my life. Like I over time, like as I got older, I was like more versatile as a human being, I guess. But when I was younger, I was definitely more like always hanging out with the dudes. So I think sometimes when it's like that there's a certain amount of sexism that gets embedded in you, like by accident, like the kind of tendency for girls to be competitive with each other or to like judge different girls for being a different kind of girl from them or whatever. Like, I feel like that is sort of like a weird sexism that happens amongst women. And I think you can be kind of unaware of that. But when you hang around guys a lot, I think sometimes it creates like a self-hatred or something. Like if you grow up around it was different times, like in the 90s and the early 2000s, like people weren't as like aware of what they said and how it impacted people. So if you're a girl and you hang out with dudes and they're always like talking shit about like girls basically, but acting like you're not one of those girls, then there's always this insecurity of like, well, I can't be like that kind of girl because then guys aren't going to respect me. And like now that I'm a grown woman, I can be like, well, that's bullshit. Like everybody should respect everybody, and like especially not be disrespected on superficial levels, like for superficial reasons. Like, so I think there's a certain, I don't know, maturity, I guess. Like as you get older, I think you can sometimes see that stuff more clearly, but
yeah, and well, I had an ex that she grew up kind of a tomboy, and she would actually like join in with the guys when they were like slut shaming other girls at the school and whatnot, and she'd be like, yeah, that fucking, that slut, blah blah blah. And she ended up not only noticing that was bullshit, but being one of the more sexually liberated people that I've known, that I've been close to. So I think
some of that's insecurity too, though. Like
I mean, it very well could be. It's tough to say I'm not this person, but
your like fear. I mean, like, because I feel like I had experienced like things like that when I was younger. Like, I was a late bloomer, and I think that when I had friends that were blooming and I wasn't, that I would feel like insecure, and I'd be like, well, they're being kind of slutty, and like I didn't like ever say that to anyone. Like I never beat anyone down or anything over it, but
blooming like physical changes or blooming like
both.
Experimentation, like
all the ways.
All the ways. Okay.
Yeah, like my best friend in like junior high like started being interested in guys like before I was interested in guys, and it definitely affected like our friendship. Like I feel like she kind of graduated into like partying and guys, and like I didn't really do that. I still like liked to learn, and I did like to play the guitar and hang out with my mom and like pet my dog. Like I was like a more like I don't know, I wasn't really doing that stuff. So I think that she lost interest in me a little bit because I was, and like I never like thought of her as like, I never like slut shamed her or anything, but I definitely like later in high school, I think that I not so much shamed, but I would feel like, what's the word, like I would get salty sometimes. Like if I like had a close friend that like the guys I liked like always liked them, I would feel like jealous because like I felt like unseen. And then like, I mean, and now that I'm older and I understand my own sexuality more, I realize that I think some of it too is sometimes that I actually kind of like girls and guys. And I think that was confusing at that time. And like maybe there were times where like I was actually mad maybe because I liked the girl or something, or both people, or like I feel like it's like I don't know. So there's some things you'll never be able to unpack from your youth.
There was an old bandmate that it was speculated of mine. This is a long time ago, that he had a thing for me, and every time I would start dating someone, he would turn into like a jealous psychopath about it because we ceased being boys. Because I've always been the type, I get a girlfriend, I just get completely immersed because it's part of my addictive tendencies. I get completely immersed, and I totally like end up just being, I'm just in it with this other person, and the whole rest of the world kind of just like melts away. And they a lot. Ron told me, he's like that. I think that dude has like a thing for you, and I never really thought about that because I always thought he was like super controlling and weird, and he was like would do psychopathic things, and he was like he had like a hatred for women, but he would like do all these deviant things with them and brag about it. He was like not a good guy. And
whoa, that's intense.
it was really intense, and it was abusive. The whole thing was like he was abusing all of us. He was a bully, and it's funny what you said about maybe some of this stemmed from me liking one of the girls. Well, maybe some of this guy's behavior stemmed from him liking one of the guys and not being able to fucking handle it, like hating himself for it and turning into a complete fucking crazy person. But I know what you mean about the late blooming thing too, because what was weird about my experience with that is just growing up in small town America and like playing sports and being like in the locker room with all these dudes. Like from a very early age, I was like, I learned about sex from the objectification of women. I learned about sex from like straight up watching pornography with football guys. Like, and so I had to unlearn a lot over the years as far as...
I think we all learned that kind of toxic shit, to be honest. Like, I mean, I think that even for women, like, I think a lot of, like, unless you have, like my mom was always really open to, like, with me. Yeah. If I needed to talk about anything of that nature, like, she was really chill about all that stuff. But I also think that, like, people kind of always instilled this, like, fear in me about sex when I was young. Like, it was always, like... you know, like, oh, like the first person you have sex with, you're going to be like obsessed with them, and they're like, you're going to feel like you love them, and like, you're going to be just like, it's going to like take over you. Or like people will be like, once you have sex, like the first time, you just always want to have sex all the time, and it's going to be like really crazy. Or like you're going to get pregnant, you're going to get an STD, you're going to get heartbroken. Like there were all these, like I was like, so I basically was like, I don't ever want to have, like, I never want to do it. Like I think I just said, like, it made me just, I was like, I don't want to go there. I don't want someone to have control over me and my emotions. Like I don't want that. I don't want to get pregnant. I don't want to get a disease. Like I don't want to be sad. Like all that stuff's not for me. Like no thanks.
I can't have sex. I don't want to be sad.
Yeah, I was like, no, that's not for me. And like, and I also think that it just took me, like, even as an adult, like I'm not like the kind of person that just like walks around like being the good one. Fuck that. Like I don't think like that. Like it takes me time to like, I have to like get to know someone a little bit. Like I'm not like I'm like a slow roller, you know.
You're
so
old fashioned.
Yeah, I think it's like, so it's like I think that just confused me, because I think I was made to believe that at that age I was supposed to like be super horny or something, that like everybody wanted to have sex, and like I was like, whoa, it's weird that I don't like feel this crazy urge to do that. Like I feel like we're kind of all just like fed these things, like that there's one type of way that happens. Like, oh, like every teen feels like this, and every teen wants that, or every person wants this. And then you start to like question it if you don't vibe with that. You're like, well, some things must be wrong with me. But like, I mean, thankfully, I think most people, as they get older, kind of like become more comfortable with whatever they're...
And it's all part of the journey, because there's so much that I could touch on, like, just, I don't know, all the way back being a little kid. My mom would take me to the YMCA, and she didn't want me to get accosted by the men in the locker room. So I had confusion about gender stuff when I was a little boy, because I would change with the girls, and nothing was ever explained to me. My parents never explained sex. All my mom said was, it's something that happens between two people that love each other, and it's sacred. But then literally every single person I was around, because my dad didn't talk to me about anything. He didn't talk to me, period. He pretty much was non-existent in my life, even though he was like living under the same roof. But yeah, it pretty much, like, I remember the first guy that had sex in middle school, his name's Vince, and he was like applauded. He was like the man, and everyone just like was like, what's it like? And they like pretty much like just like, he was like the golden god of middle school. Like he was like revered and worshipped. He was virility in what's the word I'm looking for? He just was like, he was the man. And that I never really escaped that whole mentality, like all of my high school years, like pretty much. Like that's something I didn't learn until I was in my 20s, that like a lot of times fucking that shit is more trouble than it's worth. I got your text. Yeah,
I think that there's kind of this weird, maybe not as much now, but like definitely like when you or I, like we grew up in slightly different generations, but even still, like for me too, that there's this thing where like men are kind of taught like that their manhood is defined by like how many chicks they bang, and like women like are good women if they like save themselves and don't have sex with a lot of men. But there's like this secret little message in between that is like the dude is supposed to convince the girl to like get past her morals to have sex with them, and then like it's some kind of prize for them, but then the girl is now in this precarious situation where she's like all used up or whatever. And like there's this like weird thing that happens, and even though we are all aware of it, like at least maybe more in like the more distant past, like I think everybody still like knew that whole bit was going down, but people would still shame women or like herald men, even though we all knew it was like a bullshit like system. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
I feel like, and it's been that way up until very recently. And I was talking to my buddy John not too long ago, but it's nice to see that the old guard is kind of dying off. And you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, just look at Lil Nas X. Like, he's a gay rapper in a fucking sequin cowboy suit, and it's the number one song of all
Pretty
time.
dope.
It beat Michael Jackson, you know? And we live in an age where it doesn't matter what color you are, what creed or what sexual orientation you are, or what you do with your body. Like, it pretty much, it's like you do what the fuck you want to do. And I feel like it's applauded and accepted more now than ever, and that's a good thing, you know. Because I was explaining on the last podcast, everyone in my high school, like no one that was queer came out until after they graduated high school. Like that's how well it was the late 90s, so it was fucking 20 years ago. But B, it was this fucking small town where no one, like people were afraid to be themselves because they didn't want to be ridiculed, because people were fucking bullied. People were like the F word and not fuck was like thrown around like all the time.
Now, there's even like I think openness now for like sexual orientations that aren't just gay or straight. Like I think that young kids now are even just more aware of the idea that like sexuality could just be like a fluid thing, or like maybe just you're mostly straight, but just you might meet someone of the same sex or someone who's not binary or whatever, and like any person, you might just meet a person that you just really like, and like it doesn't maybe always fit into like that neat little box of what you're supposed to like, but just like people being more accepting of that, and like what kinds of love they feel for people and for whom they feel it. And like I think that's really cool. I think that there are young kids now that are like just way more I mean, I do think some of it's like an illusion of maturity just because they have access to information on the internet that like we wouldn't have had at that age. But like it's still good. I think they're thinking about it or being exposed to those ideas. Like I think that's like a cool transition that we've kind of started to make as a society.
I'm with it.
I mean, I was just talking to a guy the other day who was like telling me about this girl that he hooks up with like periodically, and he was like, yeah, I think she wants to be my girlfriend. And I was like, well, has she said that? And he's like, well, yeah, she kind of told me she wants to be more than friends with me. And I was like, okay, well, how do you feel about it? And he's like, well, I told her that, like, you know, I'm not into that. And like now she's just playing games with me. And I feel like she's always like acting like she wants to hang out with me when she does, like, but then won't. And I'm like, well, maybe she's playing games with you because she's trying to like gain like control or power in the situation because she wants something more from you. He's like, maybe, but I would never like date her because like she's kind of slutty. And I was like, what year is it? Like, what the fuck did you just say to me? Like, and he's like, I mean, like, trust me, I've known this girl for a long time. And I was like, okay, well, like, just explain to me what you mean by slutty. He's like, well, she like posts like, you know, like pictures of herself to the internet that are like really like revealing, like slut. I'm like, I was like, okay, I'm not going to lecture you, but I would really like you to consider why you deem her a sexual partner for you. That's okay, but you don't like if you don't respect her, how come you respect yourself so much if you have sex with her and are intimate with her, but you wouldn't date her? Like, why are you like into her enough to be intimate, but you don't respect her enough to date her, but you don't see where you're also being like making not the best choices here. Like, I feel like he's making all these judgments of this person, but he's not looking at his own actions at all. And I was just kind of like, bro,
a lot of people can't see beyond their own bullshit. They're just like, well, you know, I don't know. I think that's kind of lame.
Yeah, and I was like, I didn't like, you know, get super crazy on him, but I basically was like, I think that that's kind of a bullshit way to feel about it, bro. Like, if you don't like her, then you don't like her. But it's like, if you...
Well, and the other question is, if you don't like her, then why are you fucking her?
You're
like,
right. That's what I'm saying. It's
know,
like, I'm like, are you not like thinking about this for your own self? Like why would you even want to be intimate with someone if you don't respect them? Like, and why don't you respect them? You know?
Yeah, well, and I've been in a similar situation, but a lot of it had to do with, okay, if like I'm insecure, A, B, I'm drinking heavily, and C, if I'm fucking somebody, then at least, you know, I can check that off my this is why I'm a man list, you know, like it's been very hard for me because the last time I remember even behaving like that, like I was still drinking. So it was like well over 12 years ago. You know, it's really hard for me, especially after I got sober, to just like be literally like putting my parts in another person and not like liking them or having respect for them. You know what I mean? It's really hard for me to do that. I think alcohol plays into it a lot.
Well, yeah, I think everybody makes like, you know, questionable choices. Like I was trying not to like overly judge him, you know, because it's like we've all been there where we've like been intimate with people that maybe it wasn't the best idea or like whatever. But I just think that where I kind of felt like I had to step in is just like where his judgments of her are coming from. Because it's like, I mean, for all he knows, maybe they like belong together or something. Like, you know, it's just like, I don't know. I just don't like hearing people say stuff like that where they're like, oh yeah, like I would be intimate with her, but I would never like actually consider dating her as a person or treating her with respect, because it's like, what? I mean, and maybe she doesn't respect herself. I don't know her, but I don't know.
It kind of also, if you put yourself in her shoes, it's like that stings, you know, that stings.
Yes.
Because I've been in that position before where I was like, oh, I'm really into this person. And, you know, we've all been there. And they're just kind of like, yeah, you know, they're kind of about you. And no one wants to be, you know, you want to be important to whoever you're rubbing your area and parts on, you know? I mean, at least I do.
I wanted to text that girl. I wanted to be like, hey, like, you shouldn't hang out with this guy. I wanted to, like, I don't know her, but I was just like, damn, like, that sucks. This whole situation is just awkward for everybody. Like, I feel like, I don't know, man, but like, it made me think a lot that he said that. And like, someone even got mad at me, a guy that I know. I remember like, when I was younger, more so than now, but like when I was like first started college, like I feel like people that knew me around like when I was like 19, my like late teens and my early 20s, I'm 26, so it's like I'm pretty close to my early 20s, but you know what I'm saying. People kind of viewed me as like this like really innocent person, like like non-sexual, very innocent, demure, intellectual, whatever. And I posted a picture of myself when I was like 19 that I didn't have pants on. Like my friend took like a boudoir photo of me wearing like a t-shirt with no pants. It's not like you could even see my underwear. I just had no pants on. And but I looked kind of like seductive-ish, but I wasn't like over the top by any means. Like I've seen much more crazy shit. So my friend,
yeah, you ever gone on Twitter? There's way more intense stuff going on.
Yes, and like two people, one person commented and was like, "I'm kind of concerned about the direction like you're taking your career," and I was like, "What?" And then one of my other friends, dude friends, texted me and he's like, "Oh, I saw what you posted," and I was like, "Okay," and he was like, yeah, I mean, you know, I guess everybody's got to play the come sex me card every once in a while, like to get, like, you know, like it's like I get like maybe that was like a good career move for you. And I was like, what? Like, I just feel like everybody was judging me, like being like, I'm really concerned that you posted this. And I was like, I don't get, like, it made me feel really upset. Like it upset me deeply that I felt like people were like basically telling me like, I don't respect you. Like, I feel like I'm losing respect for you because you're sharing like sensuality on the internet or whatever. And I was like, well, it's even happened to me like just now, like, you know, sometimes people will get, it's really rare now though. I mean, everybody's a lot more open-minded now, but like at that time, like I don't know. It's just kind of like weird that people get so bent out of shape about other people's choices they make with their body.
Well, there's a YouTube guy that I like a lot, and his girlfriend started an OnlyFans account, and there's a disconnect between this guy. This guy has millions of fans, and they don't know him personally. They just know his work. They know his videos, and they're all freaking the fuck out because they're like, "iDubbbz, like, how could you're a cuck, you're a simp, you know?" And it's total bullshit because she's not even posting nudes, like. And first of all, and second of all, it's her choice, and he's cool with it. And then third of all, it's like, you don't even fucking know me, bro. And that's the other weird thing too. I remember I was getting all social justice during this period of my life. It was like 2013, 2014, and I was like writing about some horrible injustice on Facebook. And some dude was like, "Yeah, this is coming from the guy that did this," and he inserted like whatever dumb shit I did 12 years before that, and. For some reason, people, once they feel like you're a thing, or they're like, "Oh, this is who Carmel Liburdi is." If you delineate from that, it like breaks their brain a little bit. It's like, okay, you're a young woman and you're continuing to age and learn about yourself and, experiment, try different things, like figure out who the fuck you are. Are you not allowed to do that because you're pigeonholed in some other people's brain as this static thing that doesn't change? I think it's bullshit.
Well, and I feel like it's really sexist. Like, I feel like when I was younger, like in high school, like guys would always say weird stuff like that to me. Like, they'd be dating a girl and they would be like, yeah, I think you're a really cool person. Like I would like marry you, but like I would date this other chick. And I'm like, what are you even saying?
What does that mean?
Like, I would have sex with this person and like I'm really drawn to you emotionally, but but I don't care or respect about, like, it's just like really fucked up. Like, people, like, I feel like certain people will like lump women in these two categories. It's like people are like, yeah, like other girls, like the one guy who was complaining about the picture I posted when I was like 19 or whatever. He was dating a girl who was a model that would sometimes like post nude photos and stuff, and I was like, so you're cool with that, but like not with me, because you just, like you said, it's like if people don't expect it from you, it's like somehow worse. And it's like they're like, yeah, I expect more of you than this, but this other person, like, it's like, I don't know, just everything about it is just weird. It's just weird. And like, I don't know, I guess I understand. I think there is kind of a line maybe with like sexualization, like especially when I look at like the pop world sometimes, and there's like Billie Eilish or something, like a young pop star, like there are certain types of like sexualizing of young people that will kind of upset me or seem like immoral. But I feel like when it comes to like people just posting like their personal stuff on the internet, like, I don't know, I feel like that's up to that individual person. It's not like exploitative or anything. So it's like, I don't know, but I think some people do look at it as
the Millie Bobby Brown argument that she's allowed to be hot at 15 is a little weird, I think. But yeah, as far as, I mean, do you know anything about that? There was big internet.
No, but oh man, but it makes sense. I feel like I already know, like, before you even explain it, like, because I just know who that she is, and I know that
she's being cool. She has stylists, and they're putting her in these skimpy dresses, and she's definitely underage, and the whole internet is just like, how could you do this, And then there's all these people that are like, she can be hot if she wants to. They're like arguing, and then there's all these like subreddits where it's pretty much all these gross guys just being like, yeah, she can be hot, and then they're like, look at her feet, the world is a strange, twisted fucking place.
Dude, one time, someone I know got their nudes put on 4chan, and they found it. And they saw all this stuff people were saying about them, and she posted the link, like, this is really fucked. And I went and looked at it, and I was like, I felt so bad. Like, I feel like people underestimate, like, I think there's certain types of like sexual harassment that like men kind of deem as like a compliment. Like, when you look at like what dudes will say on like girl stuff, even on Instagram or whatever, like famous or people that model and stuff, people will comment like crazy shit on there. And like, especially like on the 4chan situation, like those people never thought she was
sort of
anonymous,
Yeah,
and they didn't think she was going to see it or anything. They thought it was like this private thing where they were all just talking about her and her body. And when I was looking at it, it honestly just kind of disgusted me, and I felt really horrible for her that she had to look at that. And it's like, I know that some people like downplay that kind of stuff, like it's not a big deal, like because it's like just sexual comments or whatever, but like honestly, like it can feel very like invasive and weird and uncomfortable, like even when someone means it as a compliment. Like there's certain types of things, like it's like you don't want, it's like okay if people in their mind project a fantasy onto you, but like it's a lot to put on someone to like actually tell them all the things you're thinking.
Well, and it's another thing to actually use your fingers and type that shit out. Like I can't tell you how, I think it's funny that Julius is always posting Pornhub comments. But I've been, I watch pornography but when I'm doing it, I'm not typing anything because I'm doing something else. You understand? Like it's like
so
like,
weird that people
you have to be an extra special kind of fucking deviant to actually be like typing stories and like commenting on stuff and not just using it for like what it's presumably for, which is just to, take care of your business and move on with your day. But the internet's fucking gross. I'm scared of it, but I live on it. I don't know what to say. But
yeah, I mean, like, it's weird. Like, I get that, like there are girls that I follow that have OnlyFans accounts and stuff. Like, they're posting like their butts and stuff. So, like, I get where like some people might take that as like an open invitation to say something crazy, but like I feel like all
it's not.
The acceptable things to say are like, you look really awesome, or like cool shirt, or like I'm excited to check out this content. I'm gonna head over to your website right now, or
cool
like
shirt.
Looks good. Whatever. Like those are acceptable things to say. Like you can be nice, you can compliment people, but you don't want to be like, I would do this to that, and I would do like, whoa, like don't be that guy. Like don't take it to that level. Like just be like, oh, this is really. Even if you're like, oh, it's weird. Even to just say, oh, this is really exciting or something weird, like that's better than like being really specific and graphic about it. Like it's like, nobody wants that. That's uncomfortable.
I feel like in order for me to say, I first of all, I don't type stuff like that or say anything like that unless like I've already, pretty much rubbed my things on a person and we have that sort of rapport, you know what I'm saying? Like if you have that rapport with someone,
well, yeah, that's different.
But with some fantasy person on the internet, just to like, and I don't know, but some of the actresses and some of the, like Riley Reid and stuff, she's like into it. She's into hearing that kind of stuff. So
I think I guess that's I mean, like if we're gonna defend the other side of it, maybe it's hard to tell who wants you to say what, but I feel like. I
don't think you want to read what people kind of gross stuff or people saying when it comes to like stuff. I think you're probably different than Riley Reid in this situation. But
well, yeah, and I don't really post anything that warrants anything that crazy. Like no one ever really says anything that crazy to me. But like, just like. There have been a couple of times even where I did like erotic art or whatever, and I would like post it, and like people would say stuff about the people I drew or something, and I would feel like weird on behalf of them. Or like I posted a picture one time of my friend. I brought my friend on tour, and she was wearing this like really cool outfit, and like her body looked really nice. I took a picture of her in it, and I posted it, and like it wasn't really about her body per se, but she looked good. And this guy I know commented on it and was like, "Oh, somebody's looking perky" or whatever, and I was like, don't say that. Yeah. Like it was like it's so weird. Like I'm like, it was like the photo had like really dramatic lighting and like she had a really like there was so much other cool shit going on, but he just like zoomed in on her boobs and was like said that, and I was like, I felt so weird that he said that, and she was like, I mean, it's not a big deal, like
There's some creepy.
And I was like.
There's some creeper old guys on my friends list where like I'll be dating a girl and I'll post a picture of us together, and like this old dude I used to work with at Walmart, like I remember he would say stuff like, yeah, but she looks like a fun romp in the hay, or she's got like, or something about, and then or like even stuff about her ass this, or and I'm just like who are these people and why did they, it's just the audacity. It's crazy. It's wild.
Dude, or like on Tinder. Okay, Tinder is the one place where I've encountered this one time. No. this dude sent me like a paragraph and a half about all the things he wanted to do to me and stuff that was like super graphic.
Some people are into that though. You know,
I was like, and I told my friend about it, and he was like, well, I mean, did you like what he had to say?
I mean, yeah,
I was like, I mean, some of the stuff in there, if I had a relationship with this person, I'd be like, that sounds kind of cool, but it's not a good opener. Like, what the fuck? And like,
but some people are on Tinder or Grindr or whatever. Like, they want that to be the opener. They're looking for just fucking graphic, carnal.
Wow, it was crazy.
Insanity.
Well, there was a lot to it. It was like a long thing. Like, he had an arsenal of feelings, like ready to go, and
Nice.
I was like, whoa. Or like people just saying something as simple as,
was this after a match? Like, you matched with the guy?
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, you obviously like met up with him, right?
No. And like, well, the thing is, I thought he was cute, you know, like I swiped right. So like he messed it up for himself. Like if he had just been a little more chill, like, but like, or just even people being like, you look fun or whatever. I'm just like, what? Like, what do you even, like, get out of here. Like, I don't know. Either way, like, it's just like, I get that it's just a weird time, I think, for people like where there's all this openness about sexuality that there maybe
But
wasn't
where's
before.
the line? I think you have to
Yeah.
really, you just have to tread lightly, and you can't just, even with anyone, even if they're a fucking deviant, you have to like kind of let them open that deviant door a little bit and then jump right in. Like if you can't just go full deviant from the first get-go, or maybe that works for some people. I don't know, because I'm a perpetual relationship hopper and go from one long-term relationship to the next. So I was on Tinder for like a minute, and I was just like, this is weird. I don't know. It didn't really work for me.
Yeah, no, Tinder is definitely weird. I'm not a huge fan, but like I'll go on there on occasion, every once in a while. Like in my single life, I'll be like, oh, I'll try this, and yeah. I don't know. It's definitely, it also seems like Tinder has really different effects for men than it does for women. Like, for people in between or people who are neither, I don't really know what that experience is like. But I mean, as a person who definitely reads as female on there, like I have mindset for men and women. So like different, it's like on the everyone setting. So like, that's probably different. But like when I talk to men, they're always like, yeah, like I rarely match with people. I don't ever get messages. Like no one messages me first. Whereas like a lot of women are like, oh my God, I get so many messages. I'm kind of in the middle. I feel like women rarely message me first. Men will do that, I guess. But like, honestly, I feel like the whole thing has gotten a little bit weird for everybody. I think Tinder's just, however they adjusted their algorithm, I think pretty much like it's a weird experience for everyone, but like everyone still tries it, you know?
Yeah. Cause I mean, ultimately people want to connect with other people. And that's the weirdest part about now is like, if you're single now, you're like single and quarantined, you know? Like how do you connect with people when everyone's afraid of being close to each other? Like it's a very strange time. I'm even worried, like, I live with Allie, and I'm worried that, I'm going to get her sick. It's like, you got to worry about your mom. Back to the whole fear and virus type of thing. I actually should probably go eat.
Yeah, I was just gonna say we need to like bring it back around.
Yeah, well, we are bringing it back around. We're like with Tinder now. We're talking about Tinder, and how does Tinder operate in a quarantine? Are people dating each other virtually? There was something that Allie was watching where some guy ended up like kind of striking up a little bit of a spark with his neighbor, but when he went to go meet her, he like wrapped himself in a bubble wrap or something. I didn't watch the video. I heard it from the other room, and it sounded really cute. He's like, it's time we took this to the next level. He was like a really young guy, and I think he like did the whole bubble boy like to go say hi to her.
Oh, so, that's kind of cute.
I don't know what this video is. What's that?
I have one now. I have a Tinder right now during the quarantine, and Yeah, I mean, it's not.
How does it
super
work? How does it work? Like, you can't.
It's not real poppin' to really. It's kind of like a thing where I think I matched with like 2 people like in a week or something, because people aren't really swiping because there's nowhere to go. So like basically if I match with someone, I'm like, hey, I think you seem really nice, and like when the quarantine's over, maybe we'll hang, and just wanted to say you seem cool. And like that's pretty much like what's going on with me on the Tinder. But I don't know, maybe some people are just playing going rogue and like meeting up, like I don't know.
Well, if it's the end of the world, we might as well go out banging, right?
Speaking of going out,
I know we don't know each other, but cough into my mouth. Anyway, that's weird. Life is weird. But hey, I'm glad we could do this. I'm glad this is round 2 of the remote podcast experimentation circle cycle. Yeah. And I got a cool background. We're doing it.
I got a cool background too.
You do got a cool background. That is the room. That's where you create. We didn't even like touch on what you do or who you are. We just started bullshitting.
I'm a musician and I'm an artist, and you can find me on Instagram, Carmel Liburdi, and that's mainly where I go. I'm also on Facebook. I got a website, but I post like my art and my music to Carmel Liburdi on Instagram most of the time.
Links below. I'll put all the pertinent links. But yeah, Carmel is an amazingly talented singer-songwriter, and she's my friend, and this has been delightful. And I was talking to Ron. Ron said he was actually worried about me because I told him I wasn't talking to anybody. I pretty much had like hermited myself. And in the last 2 days, I've figured out how to do this remote thing. And I'm just going to try to do as many podcasts as I can with just even people, just my friends. I just want to like have conversations with people. And I like definitely doing this makes me feel a little bit more at ease, talking to similar-minded humans, and then talking about stuff that doesn't even have to do with the virus is actually puts me at ease because it gets my brain thinking about other shit. Like,
yeah, there is a life and a whole society and a system out there of some form. Or another. It's great talking to you, Neeb. I hope you have a nice meal.
I'm gonna go eat food. But hey, it was nice talking with you, and let's stay in touch, and hopefully all this blows over and we can continue being weird artists and trying to make that shit work in the real world.
Yes. Okay, well, there's my sleeping dog. You can't even see her.
Okay, goodbye, sleeping dog.
But she's back here.
Carmel, tell your mama said hello.
Okay, I'll see you later, or talk to you later.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Okay, see you, bye. Should I hit the thing on the thing? And that was it. Remote podcast number 2. SUPcast number 28. This is Neil Patterson. And I'm going to hit this button right here. Stop recording. Goodbye.
Oh, this is a Sublime song.
There's a steel train coming through. I would take it if I can, and I would not lie to you, because Sunday morning soon will come and